What if I told you the most powerful empire on Earth doesn't have an army? No tanks, no fighter jets, no flag. And yet, it influences governments, shapes global markets, and touches almost every major corporation on the planet. It doesn't conquer land, it controls capital. BlackRock manages over $10 trillion. That's more than the GDP of most countries. But here's the part no one talks about. Ancient empires like the Roman Empire didn't dominate the world with brute force alone. They built systems, roads, trade networks, currency control. The East India Company wasn't just a company. It became an empire through economic influence. Now ask yourself, in a world where wars are fought with sanctions, supply chains, and market crashes, what does real power look like? Because today the battlefield isn't territorial, it's financial. And the modern empire, it doesn't wear armor, it manages assets. This is the story of how BlackRock may be operating on the same ancient power principles that built and destroyed the greatest empires in history. And once you see the pattern, you won't look at global finance the same way again. What is BlackRock really? Founded in 1988 by Larry Fink, BlackRock began as a risk management firm. Not flashy, not loud, just focused on understanding financial risk better than anyone else. That's important, because empires don't rise through noise, they rise through structure. BlackRock doesn't own countries. It manages assets, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, ETFs. Its flagship product, iShares, makes it one of the largest ETF providers on Earth. Which means, when markets move, BlackRock is everywhere. Energy, defense, technology, healthcare, banking. Not by ruling directly, but by holding influence across the system. Just like Rome didn't own every territory outright. It built alliances, installed governors, and controlled supply lines. The Roman playbook. The Roman Empire understood one key principle. You don't need to control everything. You just need to control the infrastructure. Roads, currency, trade routes, military logistics. BlackRock's infrastructure isn't physical, it's financial. Its Aladdin platform, a risk management and analytics system, monitors trillions of dollars globally. Governments use it. Central banks consult firms that use it. Institutional investors depend on it. In ancient Rome, the empire controlled the flow of grain. Today, financial empires control the flow of capital, and capital is the lifeblood of modern civilization. The British strategy. The East India Company wasn't originally a government. It was a corporation. But it had private influence, trade monopolies, political leverage. At its peak, it controlled vast territories, not through invasion at first, but through economic footholds. Trade became influence. Influence became control. BlackRock doesn't deploy soldiers, but it invests in energy companies, defense contractors, infrastructure projects, emerging markets. It becomes a shareholder across industries that define national power. That's not conquest. That's positioning. The age of financial empires. Ancient empires extracted taxes. Modern empires manage assets. BlackRock doesn't command governments. But during crises, financial crashes, pandemics, market instability, governments consult firms like BlackRock. During the 2008 crisis, major institutions leaned on private financial expertise. When markets freeze, the biggest risk managers become critical. And here's the pattern. Ancient empires thrived during instability. They expanded when others collapsed. Financial crises are the modern equivalent of war. And those who understand risk the best, expand influence the fastest. Control without ownership. This is where it gets interesting. BlackRock doesn't technically own the companies it invests in. It manages money on behalf of clients. But with that comes voting power, corporate governance influence, board-level conversations. In ancient times, emperors didn't micromanage every province. They influenced through governors and systems. BlackRock influences through capital allocation. If capital flows into renewables, industries shift. If capital flows into AI, innovation accelerates. If capital leaves, markets collapse. That's structural power. And structural power lasts longer than military power. The geopolitical chessboard. Today's global tension isn't fought only with weapons. It's fought with supply chains, technology sanctions, energy markets, currency dominance. When the US and China compete, capital flows become strategic. BlackRock operates globally. It must balance exposure to the US, Europe, Asia, just like ancient empires balanced frontier regions. Too much exposure in one unstable region? Risk. Too little presence in a rising power? Missed opportunity. The art of empire is balance, and financial empires must play that same game, but with algorithms instead of armies. Is this good or dangerous? Here's the controversial part. Some argue BlackRock represents efficiency, capital allocated where it's most productive, pensions managed at scale, global liquidity stabilized. Others argue concentration of financial power creates systemic risk. If too much influence sits within a handful of firms, what happens if they fail? History teaches us. Empires rise because they centralize power. Empires fall because they over-centralize power. The same system that creates stability can create fragility. The future of empire. The world doesn't look like ancient Rome. There are no legions marching across continents. But power still follows patterns: infrastructure, influence, risk management, strategic positioning. BlackRock isn't an empire in the traditional sense, but it operates on principles that built them. The real question is not whether financial empires exist. It's whether we are prepared for a world where capital, not territory, defines sovereignty. Because in the 21st century, the battlefield is economic, and the modern empire doesn't wear armor. It manages assets